Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Love and Truth Podcast. I am your co host, James Nelson, here with my beautiful wife,
Lene.
and we are the Nelsons. So, again, welcome to the Love and Truth Podcast, Balcony Talk with the Nelsons. Um, this is where we have meaningful and just real, honest conversations, and really trying to foster an environment where um, couples can just really communicate on a
Right.
whole nother level.
Yeah.
Very simple. We want to provide a safe space. And we're really trying to model for couples what it means to create a safe space so you can have real hard conversations. So thank you for this. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah.
Where can they find us?
YouTube at Balcony Talk WTN. You can also find us on Instagram and also Facebook, Balcony Talk WTN.
Balcony Talk WT and
Yes.
Balcony Talk with the Nelson. So,
Yeah.
oh man, this has been a really crazy week. And we were having some really good conversations last night.
We
Sometimes we
did.
just need to record. I think we did
Yes.
record some of
We
these
we did. We
conversations.
recorded
We're
some
having
of
some
it.
real conversations
Right.
um, last night, and it's just a season and a time for people to stop faking and shaking and just get down to the truth
Right.
um, of what's going on, how they're feeling. Last episode, we had a very powerful interview with one of your hometown,
Yeah.
uh,
The Gundria Randall.
Andrew Randall, and we
Hmm.
talked about childhood traumas and just whispers
Yeah.
and dealing with those unspoken things that happen in small towns or even in families where things go unspoken,
Right.
traumas, um, assaults, child molestation,
Hmm.
all of those types of things. And so having to deal with that as an adult when you haven't really dealt with it
Hmm.
all throughout childhood can be challenging.
Right.
As you become an adult and you start having relationships,
Hmm.
and so it's kind of what we want to talk about today. So, what are your thoughts on that from the last
The
episode?
last
Yeah,
episode.
yeah,
I thought that it was really good because there are so many men and women that are challenged and faced with this that don't know how to even start the conversation. They don't know where to begin. They don't know how to take off the first layer of what I would say is shame,
hmm,
so that they can be set free. And I think that we did a pretty good job of just helping people to see what it looks like
right,
and all of the different dynamics
hmm,
that come with just going through that process and being healed,
yeah, yeah,
so yeah.
yeah. And sometimes when you have childhood events, or even as an adult, even past relationships could have been traumatic.
Right.
You could have had a traumatic breakup,
Hmm.
right? You could have had a tragic divorce, and you haven't really dealt with it and unpacked it. So
Right.
I did think if you haven't checked out the episode, you should go check it out. It's currently on YouTube.
Hmm.
Um, on our channel, Balcony Talk WTN. And so, really great episode.
It
We're
was.
probably going to come back and do a part two with the Gundria just to unpack some more because we couldn't get into all of it.
Right.
Um,
And it would be about just really how that impacts your
Relationships,
relationships,
yeah,
just with friends, with family, and even a romantic relationship. And sometimes that can also be a working relationship with your coworkers.
yeah.
It
It
doesn't
bleeds
just
into
stop
all of
into one
those.
exactly.
It bleeds into
It does.
all.
Even when we don't realize that it is. And that's what the
Mhm,
deception is.
right. Because the impact of that, what manifests is lack of trust.
Right. Absolutely.
One of the manifestations of trauma is that
Hmm.
you don't trust people anymore. So
Correct.
you don't trust your coworkers, you don't trust your new significant others, you don't trust friends, family. And so you have this wall
Mhm.
that you build up
Yes.
and you don't really trust. And so that's actually the topic that we have it behind the walls, the
Yes.
fear or the fight of letting people in.
Hmm. And it is a fight.
It is a
It
fight.
is a
It
fight.
is a fight.
Yeah.
But before we jump into that, I want to touch on a current event.
Let's
Just want
go.
to get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Um, Shannon Sharp.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Shannon.
Unc. Club Shay
Unc.
Shay.
Unc.
Mm.
What were you doing, Unc?
So so the question is, and I know he's taking some time away from ESPN right now, but why do you think now he's 56 or 57, I think.
Mhm. Mhm.
He's born in 68, so he's probably 56. Maybe he's about to be 57. And I believe this, I think she's an OnlyFans model, if I'm not mistaken. 19, 20 years old or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
So what are your thoughts on it? What do you think about that? Why do you think that is?
Okay.
What's the issue? Why
I
why is
I,
Unc
I
engaging
in
from a woman's perspective? What do you think that is?
well, again, on our YouTube page, the analytics show that we have 51% male audience, 48% female audience,
Mhm,
right? I really contribute that to some real things that we've been talking about, even leading up
mhm,
to childhood trauma.
mhm,
I definitely think there's some trauma in his life that caused him, because you can't hide this. You see what I'm saying? We think that we're hiding,
mhm,
but it manifests itself and it
mhm,
shows when you have something going on. He has some deep rooted issues that
mhm.
have not been taken care of. And here is the danger in, becoming what we would call famous, or,
Yeah,
obtaining a lot of riches.
yeah.
Because what happens is now I can use that to cover up what I haven't taken care of. And now I can honestly lead with that
Mhm.
now, because I might have been, and I'm not saying that he was,
Right, right, right.
but there's a trauma that he probably has dealt with in his childhood, and it's manifesting itself.
Or childhood and or adulthood because watch this. So if as a child you were overlooked, neglected, you know, you know, you weren't seen in a favorable light,
Mhm.
maybe, colorism,
Mhm.
being dark skinned. I know I've dealt with that
Mhm.
growing up as well, being
That's a really good point.
really dark skinned and
Mhm.
people making fun of you, especially down south, getting teased, you know, being called blackie, all of these names that kids
Yeah.
say to you, right?
Right.
And it messes with your self esteem.
Mhm.
It affects your confidence level,
Yeah.
how you view yourself. And so then what happens is, and I'll just speak for me, you start to grow, you become very good at athletics. I played, ball here in Houston, basketball, I could hoop, you start getting a lot more attention. People start seeing you differently. They start seeing the talent, the skill set.
Mhm.
You're one of the top players in the city, in the district.
So you start
And now
feeling
now your
yourself.
confidence, you start feeling yourself a little bit.
And
And
it's
now
okay. That's
now
what it is.
now the tides have changed.
Yeah.
And so then you do that. Then you go off to college
Mhm.
and you excel there,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then in his case, he had a longer path or road, but he ended up making it to the NFL,
Yeah.
Hall of Famer, Super Bowls, all of those things. And along the way, having relationships, and maybe in those relationships, there were some challenges or traumatic events that happened,
Right.
right? So it could be, the childhood, your confidence and your self worth and value being questioned, and then you find something where you really excel at.
Right.
Now everybody loves you,
Mhm.
but then deep down, those wounds or things that still might be there. So
Right.
I think it can get really deep like that, and that does seep into your relationships.
It does. So the other thing is, I understand that there are a lot of um, black men that have problem. Well, let me say this: there are black women that have problems with black men, talking to um, Caucasian women. I don't see a problem with it, but I understand where some people, black men, do, especially. Well, what do you think?
I'm gonna say WWDU.
Okay.
What would Dr. Umar say?
Yeah, well,
Um,
we know what he we know what Dr. Umar would say.
oh, Black
Okay.
Queens forever, snow bunnies never. That's what he says, right?
Yeah, that's what he said.
I think, and again, I don't know, and we've heard this being said before that, and again, you can't broad stroke all of this stuff, but
Mhm.
oftentimes other races see the potential,
Mhm.
right? Whereas maybe, um, or it's suggested that the black women don't necessarily see the potential.
Mhm.
They're looking for the one that already has it,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, I
And
can
they
see
like
that.
you. No, I'm not Western. What did um, TLC? Yeah, scrubs.
Yes.
So nobody wants to be a scrub,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Right.
What did Kanye say? I ain't saying she no gold digger,
Mhm.
but I don't see her messing with no broke.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now everything is tied to what you have
What you have. And a black man could be overlooked because
until he has
until he
something.
has something. So, what we're saying
He's not deemed valuable until he has something.
in most of the time, black women's view.
Right.
Yeah. So we really need to get some people on the show that, you know,
Hmm.
have experienced this or, just to hear what they have to say,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And then if you don't feel as if you're being valued or you don't feel as if you're being heard, there's, you know, conflict of tension. And again, by no means am I suggesting that it's the fault of black women.
No,
I'm just
no,
I'm
we're
just
not.
suggesting that like
Yeah.
the dynamics that or the environments that are created kind of lends itself to
Hmm.
that perception. Because
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's a perception,
It's a perception.
right?
Right.
Because I think we did a show one time that statistically black men marry black women at a higher percentage than people give credit to.
Yeah.
We just see the few
Yeah.
celebrities and movie stars and athletes
Athletes. Yeah.
that date outside of the race. And again,
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's not.
If you love who you love.
Hmm.
But we're talking about if that desire is rooted in some trauma,
Hmm.
then you need to get that help.
Right.
If you're looking at black women in a negative light
Right.
because there's some trauma, maybe a relationship didn't go well. I think he was dating Nicole Murphy for a second one. I don't think she admitted that they were, but just if you had bad relationships.
What you mean she didn't admit that they were?
No, she said I mean, in an interview, she said, well, no, they were at the gym together. They took a picture, but it was not confirmed that they were really dating.
But he said that they were dating?
Yeah, I think he said that
You
was.
know what? Okay.
Well, she's been attached to him. I don't know. I
Okay.
can't get into all of that.
Okay.
But it does speak to, um, and I want to pivot back to this,
Okay.
men feeling like they have a safe space to land
Mhm.
with whomever they're with,
Right.
right?
But you can't be just going find OnlyFans chicks, and that is not a safe space to land.
No,
They already, if they're open to that,
yeah,
they're open to some other things. So that means they have some trauma that hasn't been dealt with.
okay, yeah, for sure. And I
So,
also think that it's about control. Like if you can
mm,
control the narrative,
yes.
um, because of your power, your position, your money,
Hmm.
um, so control and power, a big part of it. Ego,
But to go back to a child, so we're talking about a 20-year-old young lady. You couldn't find anyone that was your age range. You need to go lower. So that already speaks to what you're talking about to
mhm,
me, the control, the dominance over the
right?
person. Everybody's been handling me, so I'll get somebody younger that I can handle. Well, doesn't look like that worked out too well because
No,
she asking for 50 mil.
yeah, no,
Her
ain't
her
nobody.
her and Busby.
Yeah, you better leave them a young chick. Now Monique
Leave them
tried to
alone.
tell him,
And Cat Williams, but
and
hey, pride comes before destruction.
yeah.
Hey, there are warning signs that come, and so that's why I don't. It is what it
So
is.
so, so let's ask this question then. So
Okay.
being a grown man,
Mhm.
unk, um, and we talked about the ego, the ego, and
Yeah.
the control thing, but why do you think it's important? I may be asking myself this question, but I'm going to ask it
Okay.
for men to have like a real like a safe space to talk and communicate and be vulnerable in those. Why do you think men need a space where they can talk?
Number one, if you never had one, um, a woman creating a space to tell you as a man, babe, I'm seeing some behaviors and I would like to talk about it. Maybe you've never said anything to anybody before, but I want you to know you can trust me with your pain.
Mhm.
And I want us to sit down and really talk about it because I want you to be the best version of you that you can
Mhm.
be so that you can be the best version for me and for you other people and then just the things that you do because I want you to be free.
Mhm.
So it's important because you're the leader of our home. If you're broken, we're broken.
Mhm.
And I think that when you have a solid woman that can create a space for you, whole space for you while you do go through the process of healing, whatever that may be, that could be child molestation, it could be rape, it could be just you being abused by people, physically being abused when you were a child. Um, that's very important for you to be able to share that. Because if you can't share that with the person that you say that you love, who do you share that with?
Yeah, that's a good question because, and I think that's where the problem comes into play. If I can't share like my fears, my vulnerabilities, my own disappointments without it being turned back on me, then most men don't feel safe
Right.
being able to talk through that,
Mhm.
you know. And I remember in my prior marriage, one of the things that I didn't feel like I was being valued or I didn't have a safe space to communicate
Mhm.
because things were being said that, tried to kind of minimize,
Mhm.
what I may have been feeling or expressing at the time. And, it had got to a point to where, you check out. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? You check out and you don't start, you stop having conversations at all. You don't even bring it up.
Right.
And I remember going through a period of time. And again, this is not to justify anything that happened because I wasn't a saint in the marriage, but it doesn't. I'm not saying it justifies, but I am suggesting that I didn't feel like I had a safe space or that I was valued or that I was being heard, even though I'm the sole provider, the breadwinner, um, you know, working, taking care of all of those things.
Mhm.
I found myself every time I would, not every time, but certainly sometimes when I traveled to Atlanta,
Mhm.
I would, man, sometimes I just wanted somebody to listen. I didn't want to hear anything,
Mhm.
just somebody to listen, you know, objectively, just no emotions or nothing. I just wanted somebody to listen. And I found myself going into strip clubs, and I'm not even a
Mhm.
strip club
Mhm.
dude. Like that wasn't my thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
But just being in an environment where, you know what, I can just say whatever. I know it ain't coming back.
Mhm.
I can just get it off and just say, hey, here's how I'm feeling. I don't feel valued. I don't feel appreciated. Yeah, I was that dude, having, just talking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I just want
Yeah.
to say it,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I knew that was not going to come back on me and be weaponized. I can just get
Mm.
it out. I wasn't
Wow.
going through counseling. I wasn't going through therapy. I didn't, you can talk to your boys or whatever, but certain things you don't really
Right.
talk about. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying my ex drove me to that. I'm just saying that's how I was feeling at the
Correct.
time because I couldn't really talk.
And I want to address something because you said I wasn't a saint in the marriage. And oftentimes that has been something that people say to make us feel like we're not good. And I just I want to say that I think that no, it's not that you were not a saint, because you were a saint. I think you made some mistakes, and there were things in the marriage that were not solid that caused you to make mistakes.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we use that word, and it's negative to me because people have made it to be negative.
Right.
But I just think that this is the detriment to the man and the relationship when we as women don't acknowledge how you feel.
Right.
Because again, we're talking about traumas that happen in your childhood that carry over into adulthood. And when we don't get those traumas taken care of and they roll over into relationships, what you just said is a perfect example
Hmm.
of what happens when the wife is absent. You know, you're not there, you're not observing to see what's going on with your spouse, whatever behaviors they're displaying. None of that's important to you. And this is the danger of both parties not being healed.
Yeah. Being emotionally unavailable.
Yes, and that's a problem, because I think that men, you definitely have to make sure that you are listening, because we have a great relationship because we have cultivated this.
Hmm.
I listen to you. I care about your feelings, and I know one day you had said to me, you said, "Well, it doesn't matter how I feel." I said, "No, wait a minute. It does matter how you feel, because at that moment, I recognize your feelings have always been put secondary,
Hmm.
third, fourth, whatever. It was never primary. But for me, it's important that your feelings are primary, because again, if I'm not making you number one in everything about you, there's a tendency that you'll fall back if a place in you is not healed, and then you will respond from that in a different way. And
Yeah.
you'll look at me like, okay, well, she doesn't care about how I feel, especially if that's not the root, but if it's
Right.
the fruit of what you've gone through as a child. This is why when we're talking about Uncle Shannon, some things were not taken care of, and people are not hiding things. We think that we are, but it shows that something's wrong when you go attach yourself to a 20-year-old OnlyFans page young lady. Forget about, it doesn't even matter her color. That added to what's going on because you got fooled, but something's wrong that you would even want to go and do that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You say that too, and I think about oftentimes men, just because of our ego, sometimes we say, "I don't really matter. No, I'm good. I don't. You don't need to do anything." Like Father's Day. I think one of the comedians talking about where Father's Day ranked on the list.
Mhm.
I think it was Ali Sadiq. He was talking about Father's Day is af- behind Arbor Day. You know what I'm saying? Father's Day is not even a, you know,
Not
it,
even a real day
you know what I'm
anymore,
saying?
huh?
It's like it's not even really celebrated like that.
Mhm.
Go look around all of the stores, and on Mother's Day,
Yeah.
watch how many flower tents pop up, cards, all of
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Father's Day, nah, it don't even feel like it's anything different.
Can I tell you why I really, and I know we're kind of off topic, but this is really good. But I really believe that the reason why that happens is because fathers, men, have not taken care of their mental. They've not taken care of the issues that they have.
Right.
And it manifests itself in them not being able to be relational,
Hmm.
being unemotionally available, um, very promiscuous, thinking you have a mindset you're supposed to have this many wives and that you can handle this many girls, because you're hiding behind something, because there is definitely a trauma there that has not been resolved. Also, let me say this: we have DNA. If your dad's dad was pimpish and your
Just
grandfather was pimpish, You know what I'm saying? But you just running women, and
If
if
it's
that is in
slash and or hoish,
hey, both
but yeah, all of the
all
above,
of
yeah.
them, but that runs through your bloodline, and until you can identify and look back and say, "You know what?" Because something in you has to say, "That's not what I want." And then until you identify that's not what you want,
Yeah.
then what you'll do is,
No, I want because I don't want to forget this, but
sure.
it was when there has been trauma or neglect or not feeling valued, and you can't really express that,
Yeah.
and you can't articulate that in the relationship. I'll say for me, I acted out and I would be like, well, F it then. You
Mhm.
know, I'm going to take care of me
Mhm.
and make sure that I'm happy, satisfied, and I feel valued and appreciated. And quite frankly, that led to, you know, other behaviors.
Right.
I'm like, okay, cool. That's how you rolling. You know what? Bet.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'll make sure I'm good.
Okay.
Oh, because we're going to get into how that affects intimacy in a
Correct.
second. Because if there's no intimacy and you're withholding that for
Right.
whatever reason, it could
Right.
be, listen, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Whose fault is it? And a lot of couples get wrapped around the axle about who's to blame
Right.
instead of focusing on solving the problem. And
Yeah.
so the reaction to those unresolved issues would look like somebody 58 years old engaging with an OnlyFans 20-year-old. For what?
Somebody the age of your
Great
child.
granddaddy.
Yeah.
No, this ain't Unc. This you granddad. Like we have 32-year-olds,
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
27, 20, what, 3, 24,
Yeah. 23.
23. So, and they have kids,
And they have kids.
okay? So you talking great. Yeah, something's
See,
wrong.
see, and oh my God. Okay. I know we got to because we
Yeah,
have
wait
we
a
got a
jump.
viewer question, but listen,
Yeah,
let me tell you why that's a trigger for me. Because even though at 20 years old, they may be an adult, most women are not fully developed even at 20
right.
mentally. So you take an older gentleman and you are pursuing a younger woman, that speaks something to me, being a woman that was molested. That age different, that age gap. What are you seeking? What are you doing? So when earlier you talked about control, that comes back to
Mhm.
me. I was being controlled and manipulated. So you look for people that you can control and manipulate because women that have a voice and that are stronger, they're not going to put up with that foolery
Right.
that you have going on where you have not taken care of your mental.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And then jump to that
no, oh, that's
question, right?
fine. That's fine.
And it can go both ways. Even if you are being pursued because you done got your bag, you got your
Mhm.
money.
Mhm.
Now you walking around like a big sugar daddy, right?
Well,
And then you got
well,
so you got to know, hey, now appreciate I got a granddaughter your age. Now we good, and you got to be mentally strong enough, mature enough to say, no, I can't do that.
right.
So whether it doesn't matter who pursued, you're still the mature one in the
Correct.
situation. I don't care who initiated. It doesn't really
Correct.
matter. You should know better. And that's what Gunny said last episode.
Mhm.
You are the adult.
Right.
You should know better.
Right.
You should be able to resist that. So anyway,
The
so yeah,
irresponsibility, but
that's
okay.
that, right?
Okay. So let me tell you what we have here. We have a viewer question, and you guys definitely feel free if you have any questions. Everybody's anonymous. We don't say this was sent in by blah blah blah. Now, if you just want us to say it, you make that very clear. But
Right.
otherwise, every question is anonymous. You can email us at balconytalkwtn@gmail.com, and you can actually submit your questions that you may have. So this was one question. How do I know if I'm intentionally pushing my partner away due to past trauma? And then I'm going to ask the second part of that question, but let's answer that first. How do I know if I'm unintentionally pushing my partner away due to past trauma? Did you experience me pushing you away?
How do I know I am unintentionally?
Pushing my partner away due to past trauma. Did you experience that with me?
Um,
Me pushing you away?
no, 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 not with you. Um,
Have you ever experienced that?
yeah, yeah. I feel like there was a few relationships where there was like this sabotage,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Uh-huh.
I could sense because I'm big on energy and big on connection.
Mhm.
And if there's no connection, if there's no energy happening,
Mhm.
right? That could be intimacy. That's not just sex, but just
Right.
I'm checking the vibe, I'm checking the temperature, I'm checking the room. I know intuitively when there's a withdrawal
Mhm.
or withdrawing. Um, so yeah, I've been in situations where I realize that something else happened, and it wasn't. I knew it wasn't me,
Mhm.
right? But the connection somewhere was broken.
Okay. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Mhm.
And my personality doesn't lend itself to being someone that's hard to connect with.
Right. Right.
So at that point, yeah, I have experienced that. I have felt that.
Mhm.
And so the way I responded in the past though was, again, I would be like, F it.
Yeah.
And then I would go through my behavior, right, which wasn't healthy for me,
Right.
but that was my defense mechanism.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
that's how you're
Right.
moving. Okay, well, cool. I'm gonna move like that too. So yeah.
So the second part of that
So I
question
think okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. So the second part of that question is how can I begin to repair that while still protecting myself?
Listen, this is why it's so important to have honest and open communication.
Mhm.
Like if you really, really, really are committed to a relationship, you've got to have these conversations, not when something's going on.
Right.
You've got to, this is how balcony talk manifested. We created a safe space on the balcony for us to have real, honest, and open conversations.
Mhm.
And if we felt something, we got clarity
Mhm.
in that moment.
Mhm.
Hey, I'm detecting something. We got clarity in that moment. And so part of it is creating that safe space.
Right.
You gotta create a safe space where you can ask the tough questions
Mhm. Mhm.
or share some very vulnerable, information so that the partner knows here's why I've kind of withdrawn. Here's why I've pulled back. Here's why I'm not feeling as, intimate
Mhm.
as I
Mhm.
have before. I'm going through menopause. Some things have come up from past traumas that I'm trying to deal with and
That's
unpack.
good.
So you got to share that with your partner so they don't feel like that rejection.
Right.
Men do not like rejection.
Mm.
So I think that's how you have to deal with that.
Well, that's good.
And just a good time to say
Yeah.
our Love and Truth Journal, which is available
Yep.
to you guys.
Yep.
You'll see it flash on the screen. It really helps to prompt those conversations and create that safe space. That's really the first section of the um, the journal. It's about how do you cultivate and create a safe space. And so we highly encourage you to pick up the journal. It's a digital copy. As soon as you place your order, it'll come straight to your email. You can
Mhm.
download the whole journal or you can download one section at a time, one page at a time, and you can use it for you and your couple, you and your partner to have
Mhm.
some conversations. And we encourage people to just take one question a week. You can't, unpack it all in one
Right.
session. Just set aside some time to ask each other these prompting questions. You
And
want to go on?
yeah, I just wanted to say the first question in the journal is what does a safe space in our relationship mean to you and how can we create it together?
Right.
That's very important because dealing with a partner, whether it's just one, in our relationship it's just me that's gone through the childhood trauma of molestation. My husband has gone through other things, not on the level of mine or depth of mine. But no, having a person like me that's gone through that, you need someone to be able to, again, handle the depth and level of your pain. And this is why I really love this journal, because it was birthed from everything that I've gone through and your ability to be able to help me, being a catalyst and helping me to heal through this
Right.
process. So I really appreciate that. So now that we did that first question, this is gonna be the last question from a viewer, and then we're good. We
Okay.
had two. What if I'm afraid of opening up to my partner about my past trauma?
I would ask, why are you afraid to open up?
Yeah, yeah.
So why are you afraid? So hypothetically, if I said, well, why are you afraid? You would say what?
I would say because I have, and I've felt this in a relationship. I'm already not able to talk about things that I want to talk about without getting some type of resistance, and the energy and being able to have a safe space to land wasn't there. So it's very difficult to open up about something that is such a has been such a significant or traumatic event in your life, to tell you that. And I can't even talk to you about simple things about what I was dealing with at work, or why I didn't wash the dishes, or why I didn't wash clothes. So how can I talk to you about something that is so near and dear to my heart that I want to get off with you, but I can't?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really, really fair. And so when you get in those spaces, or you've been in those spaces, what was the response? How, so you recognize it. Does the other party recognize, or
Well,
do they?
I never told anybody,
Oh, so you just
because
shut
that's
down. You
not,
didn't say anything.
yeah, because this is the thing. You don't tell people that there are so many layers to this. It's anchored in shame, but there's the embarrassment, there's the guilt of, you know, I'm guilty because I didn't tell anybody, or I did and no one showed up to help me resolve the issue. Or just this, I'm blaming myself that I've put myself in this situation. And I feel like that because no, if I did tell someone, no one came to my rescue.
Okay.
So now that I have a partner that I should be able to say things to, again, due to my inability to understand what was going on with me as being a victim of child molestation, I don't quite know how to put the words together to be able to even to express that to you. But what I do know is you've not made yourself available to me in some other areas to tell you some things that are not even as detrimental. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Right.
not as heavy. And if you can't listen to me on that, I can't even share this with you. So now I'm locked up and locked down.
Right. So being in a situation where the little things, you couldn't trust somebody with. So how am I going to give you the great things?
That's all. That's
So,
all.
so I guess if we're talking to someone that's in that position right now,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Gone through similar childhood trauma, trust was broken, betrayal, um, didn't feel protected or safe. Now you're in an adult relationship,
Mhm.
and you have some things going on in the relationship, right?
Mhm.
And you cannot express that to your partner because they immediately get defensive, uh, um, minimize what you're saying, turn it around,
Mhm.
gaslight you.
Mhm.
What would you say to someone that's probably in that situation right now, knowing all of that?
Mhm.
What would you say to that person? Here's what you need to do.
I would say therapy first. I would say go to therapy for yourself first. And then I would say, if your partner is willing, um, go to therapy together. As you guys begin to um, basically, dissect some things in the relationship that need to be dealt with first, so that you can progressively move into that area of being able to then talk about what happened to you. But I think it starts there first because people that have been violated, they're not just open to tell you what happened to them
Hmm.
because we already dealing with distrust of people.
Right.
And so therapy is going to be the first thing. And then I'll get to see if I still feel like you're giving me a safe space to land
Hmm.
and if therapy is helping us or if you're just going through the motions. And I'll know because people that have been violated, they know it's like, okay, I can trust you with this now. I feel because there's an energy. But yeah, like,
You know what? No, I agree with that. And you made me think about something, right? The therapy, because we
hmm
definitely encourage therapy,
hmm
um, men and women,
yeah,
adult children that have gone through things. We highly recommend therapy. Again, we do it together. We go independently.
yep,
But you said something. You said, "Hey, go to therapy," and then y'all go to therapy together, like marriage counseling, marriage therapy, whatever
correct.
the case may be, right? Do you believe it's more important for you as an individual to go to therapy or the two of you to go to therapy together?
I think it's more important for you to go
Okay.
because
Why do you say that?
I say it because oftentimes, we can deceive ourselves and we can be in denial to think that we're not the problem when we possibly are the problem. And it's easy for us to, so that we don't deal with ourselves, it's easy for me to say, you, and not be a person to be a person of accountability. So you can think that you're right, but be very wrong.
Yeah.
So I think always it starts with you individually, taking care of you. I always say, I want to be a better me so that I'm good for you and everybody else.
So do you think oftentimes when there's relationship challenges, um, and more often than not, the female is asking for therapy. We need to go to counseling. We need to go to counseling,
Right.
right?
hmm
And sometimes the way that's interpreted because you need to get fixed. The man, you need
That's what
you're
that's what it sounds like the woman is saying.
yeah, I mean, that's what it feels like because you're suggesting, not you, but I'm just saying
I
the
understand.
woman is suggesting the therapy.
hmm
And depending on the dynamics of the relationship and where the blame game is going,
hmm
it could feel like, hey, because listen, I've been in a situation, uh, prior relationships in therapy, and everything was directed at me as if I
You were the
was the
only
sole
problem.
problem
Yeah.
in the relationship,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so for a long time, it was like, man, I'm not going to therapy. You trying to get me, especially when you're doing Christian counseling therapy, and
hmm
then you got um, the wife pressing you, then you might be in that with a minister or pastor, they pressing you, and then they throwing a word at you, and then you feel like it's 3-on-1
Yeah.
in that session, right?
Yeah.
And no one's really listening to all of the dynamics. And so honestly, for me, it's like I just shut down. I was like, okay, we just in there just so you want them to tell me I'm wrong.
And I'm sorry that that happened to you because, and this is why I don't like for people when things are going on, they show up and they say, well, the word says, because that's manipulative. Because what you're now trying to do is you're trying to beat them over the head with the word, and that's not what God does to us.
Hmm.
I don't like that. I don't have a problem with Christian counseling at all because we're believers. But what I prefer is oftentimes being counseled by an outside person. That way it's neutral because now your your pastor and first lady possibly have information about you, and they they see something, they know something. So then when you sit in the chair and now you're in the hot seat, "Oh, well, we do know that you've had this behavior. We know that this has come up before. So now, you know what I mean?"
Yeah, but for me, it's more that was a part of, but it's more because I want to stay on this point
Okay.
about going to therapy for yourself
For yourself.
first,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And not to take someone to therapy so that they can get fixed.
Yeah.
I think,
I really
yeah,
understand that.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Okay.
and then on top of that, I
Uh-huh.
just that's additive. I'm
Mhm.
saying go to counseling and therapy for you
For yourself.
to unpack what's going on with you.
Right.
Why do you tolerate certain things? Why are certain things such a trigger for you?
Yeah.
What is the pain? What is the trauma that you need to unpack for you?
Mhm.
And you won't be able to do that if you're sitting side by side and you associate all of your problems or issues is with that person.
Correct.
They're the reason why I'm responding this way.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
understand
yeah,
fully
I'm simply saying go to counsel because when we got together, what did I tell you?
that you were going to counseling.
I wasn't going to counseling for anybody but for me.
And I was so glad. And that is why I got with him because you said, well, hey, I'm going to counseling. And I said, I can work with that. And I
Yeah.
said, I could work with that because you're going for you. You're not going for anybody
And this is
else.
before we actually
Got together.
got
Right.
engaged, not engaged, but got back started talking. I
Right.
was doing this,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because I was trying to unpack things with me. So just encouraging people, don't drag that person to counseling and think that that's going to fix it.
To hear so that the therapist can side with you to say you're wrong.
Right. No, that's not even enough.
That's not fair.
And I remember the scene with and what's love got to do with it when she finally started. I mean, and she did her meditation and all of that, but she came back and she found peace and centered herself within
Yeah.
herself.
Right.
It didn't care what the outside or external influences or forces were.
Right.
You've got to get centered and stable within yourself
Mhm. Mhm.
before anything on the outside changes. You've
Right.
got to be grounded and centered with you. That's where it starts. That's the most important thing. That is a primary objective
Right.
to being healed and whole
Right.
with you. Too
Mhm.
many broken people are together broken people trying to fix broken people and trying to see who the most broke.
And it does not
It
work.
doesn't work like that.
It will y'all, when I say it will never work, it will never work.
And one of the things that we talked about was that those unresolved traumas,
Mhm.
bad relationships, experiences
Mhm.
will have an impact on the level and depth of intimacy that you have with your partner.
So I have a question about that. Because when we talk about intimacy, some people their ears are fixed in on just the physical
Right.
intimacy. What does that look like if you've experienced this before, being with someone that has not dealt with their trauma? What does that look like? The intimacy look like?
It looks like number one, we're gonna knock this out, take this off the top. There's no physical consistency or regularity around sexual intimacy. So
Okay.
put that out.
Okay.
But more important than that, the energy in the room,
Mhm.
the desire to be around one's presence, the negative vibe, everything is negative,
Yeah.
right? In the room, right? And
Yeah.
so you don't even want to be around the person.
Mm.
So if you see that she's always going out with the girls, he's always going out with the fellas, she's always going on girls trips, he's always going on guys trips, something is broken. Like what I literally enjoy being around you. We could be at home watching TV. We could listen. It's always a table for two. We could be in a stadium of 20,000 folks, and it feels like it's just me and you.
Yeah.
That's the level of intimacy I'm talking about. The
Right.
way it doesn't matter who's around,
Mhm.
we can enjoy each other's company and presence
Mhm.
anywhere,
Right.
right?
Right.
So for me, it's not just the physical part of it. It's about, do you enjoy being in someone's company? Can you sit down and have a conversation with them? Can you talk about very deep emotional and challenging things like fears, um, heartbreaks, all of those things, right? You can
Yeah.
share that. That's
Right.
being intimate. I'm
Yes.
letting you inside of everything about me.
I'm allowing you to see into me.
Yes, and I don't feel afraid.
Right. And that's very important. Okay. All right. Well, um So here's another. Well, do you have a
No,
question,
no,
or
go ahead.
can I
Go
do
ahead.
this
Yeah,
one?
go ahead.
Okay. What are some common signs or behaviors that may suggest someone may be struggling with intimacy due to unresolved childhood? Have you experienced that? Have you seen signs in any relationships prior that you're like you can pinpoint something may be going on here?
Yeah, we just kind of talked about just being around, not wanting to be sexually intimate. Like there's always you know, just on the physical front, right? But then just not wanting to be around someone too. I mean, those are just signs, and everything is transactional and surface.
Ugh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm done with my questions. What do you have?
Here's a question.
Okay.
How has unresolved childhood traumas affected other relationships outside of your partner relationships? It could
Mhm.
be family, friends. How is that manifested?
So when people okay, so I had a child well, I'm sorry, I didn't have a childhood friend, but I had a friend when I was working at AT&T, and T,
Hmm.
and she and I were really close, and I don't pull people in close to me, and that's a part of the childhood trauma, just not allowing people up close and personal, trying to protect yourself. But this one friend, she seemed to be that girl that I could trust, and we didn't hang around each other that much anymore because I had already gone to a different department. And it was odd to me because we didn't even talk that much anymore. But she called me one day and she said, "Hey, you know, I went to church and this prophet told me, not to hang around, a certain person anymore. And her name started with a T." And I said, "Really? Because, you got somebody else in your life. Her name starts with a T." And it was odd to me because she and I hadn't been talking.
Right.
My point of this is, though, she said, "Well, if the Holy Spirit leads me to call you, I will." I said, "No, the Holy Spirit not gonna lead you to call me." I said, "We good." I and here's the part of a person that has been violated and how your behavior is.
Hmm.
When people say cut off game is on point,
Hmm.
cut you off, never look back. I won't try to talk to you. I won't try to pursue you any type of way. I'll think about you and then I'll be like, okay, I'm going on from that. But not in a manner of thinking about you, maybe grieving the relationship, because when people treat me a certain type of way, that's a part of that trauma. I just don't want to have any dealings with you because now it's showing up, that feeling of being violated.
Hmm.
That's the way it's something in that
Right.
makes me feel that way. So it can definitely show up in just your relationship with, friends.
Yeah. So those are the protective behaviors.
Yes.
Like I got to protect
Coping
myself. Yeah, coping. I
mechanisms.
got to protect myself because no one else is going to protect me.
Right.
I wasn't protected as a child.
Mhm.
Nobody came to my defense. And so when somebody shows me something and they show me a characteristic or a behavior that makes me feel like I felt
Right.
vulnerable,
Mhm.
uncovered,
Right.
unprotected, I'm gonna cut you off
Mhm.
and be done with it. So not really engaging with people or cutting people off is one of those
Yes.
responses
Yes. That shows up in another part
in
of
an
a
adult relationship.
relationship. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that too, because I'd be like, all right, cool,
Yeah.
bet.
Yeah. And so, and it's very difficult for me to see people that are not like me to tolerate behaviors from people, like to try, if somebody's done something to you and you're really just trying to
Help.
hang in there and just be abused in the midst of their bad behavior, because obviously something's going on with them. And if people tell you they don't want to be around you, if people tell you they want to walk out of, hey, this relationship we have, I want to walk out, you have to
Let them.
let them go. Let them.
Yeah.
Let them feel how they feel. Let them think how they want to think, but just let them go.
Yeah.
Because it will end up turning back on you, and you'll be very hurt, and you'll be being abused in all manners of ways because you chose to remain solid and loyal to somebody that is not loyal to you.
Setting yourself up for a cycle of abuse
That's what you're
from
doing.
people expecting them to do something different,
Yes.
and they're showing you um, how they're going to handle you.
Right.
So, you know, I guess in summary, we're simply saying, you know, the fight to let people in, I get it.
Mhm.
When you haven't been protected, number one, get counseling, get
Yes.
healing first, because that's your first order of business. Go get healing, go get the necessary counseling. Find someone that you can be 100% open and honest and transparent with,
Yes.
so you can work through those. It's a process. It's not a one and done. And then if you're with someone, communicate with them about what you're dealing with and what you're going through,
It's a big one.
and be okay with whatever the response is.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times we don't share because we don't know how the other person is going to respond. And that response might not be what we're looking for.
Mhm.
Because the response might be, I can't deal with this, and they're out.
Mhm.
But you know what? Now you know.
Right.
And then you can work on that recovery.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
so just be honest and truthful with yourself. That's why we call it the Love and Truth podcast,
Right.
because love yourself enough to be truthful with you first. And if you can do that, then you can love and be truthful with everyone else.
Correct. I
That's my
agree.
closing word.
Okay. Well, that's a good closing word. I don't have anything else to say. I think you did a great job.
Well, cool. Well, let them know where they can find us online.
Absolutely. You can watch all of these full episodes on YouTube at Balcony Talk WTN. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. All those things should be on your screen. Definitely go to our website, www.loveandtruthjournal.com, so you can order your journal today. I know it's going to bless you. And as always, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your support. We love you.
Yes, and listen, one more thing. Go like, subscribe, and share.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
like
Do
and
that.
subscribe, share to
Do
our
that.
YouTube channel. We're trying to grow our audience. We're looking for truth seekers, right?
Yeah.
That's our community.
That's
If
our
you if you're
community.
looking for love and truth, join our community with truth seekers. But definitely go like, subscribe, and share, and
Yeah.
hit that notification bell.
Ding, ding, ding.